We're on all the places. I'm so excited to have this conversation.
Me too. Especially after, I mean, this is kind of an action-packed week
Let's talk
astrologically.
about the astro of the week. First of all, for those who know me, Bonnie Gillespie, the astrologer's daughter, this is my friend and instructor and collaborator, Rachel Lang, astrologer, psychic medium, magician in all ways. I would love, Rachel, for us to chat about the astro of the now, because as we're having this conversation, we've been snagged by quite a few little tech hiccups, like one after the next after the next. The moon just moved into Gemini, which
Mhm.
you said to me, so now we're in the eclipse. Can you talk
Yeah.
about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Well, solar eclipse is a new moon, and it's a new moon that aligns with the nodes in such a way that we have this really interesting gravitational pull. And new moons, the couple of days leading up to a new moon, and as soon as the moon enters the sign of the eclipse, you're technically in the dark of the moon. So that balsamic moon phase is like when all of the action happens in the lunation cycle. It's like the power, it's like the powerful energy of like, ending one cycle, beginning another cycle. And an eclipse just amplifies all of that and kind of brings it up to a whole new lever level. My Mercury is like my Mercury, my Pluto, I have like a lot of air planets that are all in the mix of this. So I'm feeling it. And you do too. Your
I am
moon, your
I am
rising.
yes, I am air dominant, and I definitely feel some of what's going on in big ways, especially the nodal axis is
Mm-hmm.
that is the whole Gemini Sagittarius
Yes. Yeah.
situation. So when we're between two eclipses right now.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, no,
um,
oh yeah, right at this moment. Yeah.
Yeah, because we had one, and now we're going to have another. This is eclipse season,
Yes.
essentially. What is the action of one eclipse to another for you? Because for me, I say that under that first one that we had in May, it's release all the things that are around that sort of Sagittarius energy, and then here with this Gemini new moon, it's plant seeds, intention setting for the future, and superpowered because of the eclipse. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, so you are absolutely right in that we are releasing the Sagittarius stuff. And that Sagittarius stuff is all about like times when we don't trust ourselves, giving our power to gurus or to experts or to other people, and letting the beliefs and the rules and the all of those things that we were raised with define our beliefs and who we are right now. And so it's like all of that's breaking down. With eclipses, it's not so much about planting seeds or setting intentions so much as it is clearing the road, like
Ooh.
opening up. But with every other new moon or most other new moons, it is planting seeds, starting intentions. But usually what happens with eclipses is the seeds have already been planted,
Mm.
and anything keeping you from manifesting those dreams, those desires, those goals clears out of the way. So it's like we get fast forwarded into our path, onto our path, you know?
It's sort of a, you said you wanted this kind of, yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes we don't consciously know that we want something. Sometimes our souls are like, "Hey, Bonnie, I'm going to move you in this direction." And you're like, "I would never choose this for myself." But your soul says, "Hey, there's a deeper purpose and you don't know what it is yet, but you will find out. And here is your hero's journey."
Woo! I've been hearing from so many people this week and last, specifically about just how rough things are feeling. Like just that there's a lot of energy, and they're feeling either exhausted or wired or a little bit of both. They can't sleep during the night. They're face planting on the sofa during the day. They just what amount of big astro is actually happening right now that's not just the eclipse, which on its own is already enough. Then there's also Mercury retrograde,
Mm.
and then there's some outer planet shenanigans happening. Can you talk a little bit
Yes.
about that?
Sure, sure. Well, you know that the big overarching theme for this whole year is Saturn square Uranus. But Ceres, who's this little dwarf planet, it's my favorite. Actually, I don't want to offend Eris, but Ceres is my favorite dwarf planet. Ceres is one of my favorite dwarf planets. Ceres is right next to Uranus. And so she is the goddess of agriculture, the goddess of food, nurturing, mothering. And so she's involved with this too. So let's talk about the Saturn Uranus square first of all. And actually, I want to hear your thoughts about this transit and what you're noticing with it.
Heck yeah. So this is a transit that we're going to get three times total in 2021. We are just about to have the second of the three. The first one was January 17th, I believe. Uh,
February 17th.
Thank you, February
Yeah.
17th. And then this one is June 14th. And then the last one is it December?
Yep, December 24th.
Wow. So right up there during more eclipse stuff that we'll just have come out of, right?
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh, this is going to be a very active end of the year because we also then get that last push into of Jupiter into Pisces after it's had like a preview right now, and then going back
Yes.
into Aquarius and then going into Pisces. So there's just so much big astro happening. But the specifics of Saturn and Uranus, what I look at, square is a hard angle. It's two directions coming together in a pressure filled way. And so pressure, of course, can create beautiful things. If we think about like a diamond that's created under pressure, we know probably from our own lives that when we're under a lot of pressure, we get more creative, we get more resilient. Like it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is a lot of energy. And Uranus is the planet of chaos and revolt and how can I be totally different with the way that I'm coming at something. And I call Saturn the dad planet. And I say we
Yes.
all have daddy issues.
Uh-huh.
Saturn is the one that's saying, are you doing the thing that you said you were going to do? Is this the structure that we agreed to? It's systems, it's stripping things down, it's back to basics, it's minimalist. And so, with those two at a square, it is such a potentially volatile time. For
Mm-hmm.
me, my interpretation of it is that we are going to see ways to strip down to basics, but in totally new ways. That's
Mm-hmm.
my log line for that combination, and we're going to get to see right now in the next from the time we're having this conversation in the next week we're going to really get to see some return of the energy that we may have seen start kicking up in February, and that we'll then get one last chance to experience in December before this particular transit is done.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I love that the way that you described it. And I think an example of this that we've seen is the tearing down of statues. That actual physical tearing down of statues that no longer reflect our collective values. And this is what we're doing in our lives too. So in those statues, like think about the things that the stories that you heard about your ancestors, and like who they were and how that formed who you were and or who you are. And we're in this point right now of our evolution collectively and with the square of saying, do we want to to be to be a representative of those aspects of our past? And so we can kind of like choose what we want to take to hold with us, what statues we want to keep,
Yes.
and we can choose which ones we want to tear down.
Yes. Oh, I love that because that's a thing I talk about a lot with people who are newer to astrology. Is they say, what about free will? I'm like, we have free will every minute of every day with the weather. Yet we could still take a look at what is the forecast.
Yeah.
And I feel astrology is the same way. It's like it shows us what the terrain is. It shows us what weather patterns are coming through, but we can still choose to take an umbrella or not. And so when I
I
look.
use that exact same. I use
Are
that
you
exact
serious?
same analogy.
Well, and for me, it's like you could go out with an umbrella and go, like, I don't judge someone who doesn't take an umbrella. I take an umbrella because that feels good to me. Someone else is like, you missed getting rained on by this beautiful, like, cleansing that we're having. It's so there's no good or bad. It's just a
Uh-huh.
choice. But I like knowing I have the option. And so, being Cancer, I'm probably going to just take the umbrella with me all the time, always.
Mhm.
So I was taking a look real quick because the thing that is particularly interesting about this Saturn Uranus square that perfects on the 14th is that it's Saturn's opposing Mars. Do I have that right?
Yes, it will be. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not
So
right now at this moment, but yeah, Mars is
not yet, but it
going
will
to
be.
be at 29 degrees. Is that yeah? So Mars is at 29 degrees. So of Cancer. So actually, Mars is leaving Pluto, leaving its opposition to Pluto, and moving toward an opposition with Saturn. So yeah, so that's another piece of this
Yes.
puzzle. And I think Saturn, so Uranus square, or Saturn square Uranus rather, can have, I mean, we're talking about the god of the sky in a conflict with the god of the earth, like
Mm.
the material and the mental. We can't keep up with our ideas, but also Ceres is in the mix as well. So one thing that we might notice are some really crazy weather patterns, or some things with agriculture or food and things like that. Not anything like, we're not talking about an apocalyptic situation here, but like it's really important that we nurture ourselves and that we focus on nurturing others. And that actually, I think the fact that Ceres is here, there's really an opportunity to prioritize and nurture people and populations and the earth that have been sort of like put on the back burner for all these years.
Yes. So one of the things that I'm looking at also is the tech potential in this,
Mm-hmm.
because Uranus, of course, the modern ruler of Aquarius, if I have that right. I know
Yeah.
that traditional is now is
Saturn.
Capricorn. Yeah, is Saturn. I was like, should it be Capricorn? Who is that? Saturn. Thank you. Yes. And so I was looking at, could this be more of like those ransomware attacks on food industry
Mm-hmm.
and farming and cattle and like those types of things that we're starting to
Mm-hmm.
see with people like holding for ransom people's technology in exchange for $100,000 in Bitcoin or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's that kind of chaos where we're headed, and that's why I'm specifically looking at what Mars is doing,
Yep. Yep.
because that war energy, it could be a little sharper than what we experienced in February. But yes,
Mm-hmm.
also to the natural disasters potential.
Yeah.
I'm taking a look around at like, wow, what might be happening. What I do with my clients is I say, just put bubble wrap around yourself for like these eclipses and Mercury retrograde and now this particular transit. I'm like, that's a lot going on at once. And you mentioned Pluto, which of course is we're in the midst of the United States Pluto return
Mm-hmm.
for years, and we're definitely seeing that. I refer to Pluto as the Tower card. How do you describe what Pluto does?
Yes, I like, yeah, the Tower card pretty much describes it. But here's the, like, when we're in a Pluto transit, what happens is that things break down, like things that don't work anymore, systems that aren't working break down, fall apart. We have crashes, like the stock market crash. We have, the mortgage crisis that happened in 2008 happened right when Pluto entered Capricorn, which is the sector of banking and finance and economy. So Pluto breaks down, and then it says, okay, let's rebuild in a better way. Let's build back better. So it's death and rebirth and those cycles of regeneration.
Yeah. And that to me is super exciting, like the potential for it. We're always living through history as we live, but I feel so acutely aware of how much history is being made like right
Yeah,
now as we're
yeah.
living life today in 2021 and last year and onward. I'm like, there's some really exciting changes
Mm-hmm.
happening as some of these resets happen.
Yeah.
And for me personally, it's allowing me to take a look at what are the basics that I value. What is it that works for me energy wise? And that's actually why we're having this conversation the way we are. We were supposed to go live, and then just a series of tech issue after tech issue after tech issue. I'm like, well, what do we do with this? I guess we call it off. And Rachel's like, no, let's go ahead and shoot anyway, but without all the trying to stream and have chat and get it in all the places. And so I'm glad we're still doing this, because what that really underscores is one of the things that I keep looking at for my own values, which is I want more ease. I want things to just feel like they're working. And so with that, I kind of want to describe how you and I got together to create something that we're going to reveal today.
I know. Oh my God. I know it's so interesting, because I think that's like been my intention for the last couple of years, is like, things don't have to be so hard. And so that's one of those old beliefs that I'm kind of like breaking down during this thing. And here we are. Can I tell it? Can I tell the story? I'm so excited to tell this story. So as soon as I met you, I was like, actually, I didn't even meet you. I saw you on Instagram, and I was like, this person, I want to know her. She's going to be important in my life. I really like her. I don't know how we're connected, but like I feel connected to you. And, and then I got to know you in my class, and I was like, oh, I really love Bonnie. And so Bonnie, for everyone listening, she and I went to a NCGR meeting together, and it was a really interesting meeting with April Elliott Kemp, and she was talking about astrological marketing. And so in the chat, Bonnie and I are like, hey, it's good to see you. It's good to see you. Oh, this is so interesting. I know, I love that. And then somehow, I don't know how it happened, but I was like, we should teach a workshop together. Okay, now I'll let you tell it.
No, it's so cool. It's so cool, because I actually did end up going back and looking at that chat and picking up the exact moment, and I did the chart for that moment and sent it over to Rachel, and I was like, look, here's the moment that it all came together, and we're like, this is a really good chart. This looks really fantastic. But the cool thing for me was we were kind of having the same thoughts at the same moment around this is something that we could do really well. We could have a conversation with creatives, because we both work with creatives, mostly show business people, but not exclusively, about how their chart plays into where their brand is, where their blocks are to success and creativity, where their highest potential may lie, and how to tap into that. And it just seemed to make so much sense to start having those kinds of conversations. And so as we're in the chat during this meeting, and we've got the little thing on Zoom toggled to private, so it's just we're having this little chat between the two of us, and meanwhile we're like, oh no, this is really interesting, but we're just like, okay, no, we're here, this is why we're here, we're here to have this conversation. There's a like conversation around we should meet and let's talk all of this out. And I said, well, I'm free right after this, how about you? And Rachel said, I'm free, let's do it. And so I popped in my Zoom link, and as soon as that meeting was done, we Zoom hopped over to another room. And then every time we've said, okay, well, let's get back together and chat about this some more, it's always come together so easily. And when we brainstormed, well, we could do this in week 1 and this in week 2, it's like we were finishing each other's sentences about what goes where. And everything from the logo to the copy on the pages to just all our communication about logistics has been so freaking easy. It feels really good.
Yes, I know. And I think about how many times I have struggled in a working collaboration or in a partnership, or even just on my own, mostly on my own, like struggled to like bring things forward. And this just flowed, because I think it's something that people need right now. And especially for those who are creatives, it can be a really lonely, like it can be kind of like a lonely path. And we're both so passionate about helping people achieve their goals and manifest their dreams, and seeing how astrology fits into that. It's just like it's our zone of genius, I think, both of us.
Definitely. And you know, the astrologer's daughter business really happened so organically, because as more and more of my clients started asking woo questions during their self-management for actors coaching, I started noticing a pattern, as I always notice patterns, which is why I love astrology so much. It's just pattern tracking. As I started noticing the clients of mine that were doing the best in terms of current societal measures of success were the ones who were tapping into my new age upbringing. They were asking the woo questions. They were using what I could tell them about their chart or their numerology, which was very basic level stuff. And then I went, this might actually be a thing, and committed myself to studying and learning and re-upping my vocabulary from the 70s and 80s around what astrology is. And that's how I found, well, actually, the way I found you, Rachel, is I was following someone on Instagram who does like bike tours of LA. And it's a Cali Street.
Yeah, Kelly Street. Yes, I love him.
So I started following him because someone had regrammed his stuff, and I went, ooh, yes, I want to see
His
these.
stuff is
Yeah,
beautiful.
gorgeous. And so I was like, yes, I want to follow him. And he posted one of your daily like summaries of the astrology of the day, and I went, whoa, hang on, I like this language, I like what's happening here, let me see. And similarly, I went and looked at your profile and went, oh yes, we are in each other's lives, this is happening. Started following you, and I'm very stingy with my follows on Instagram. So like, started following you, and then took a course from you that was way over my head because it was the next thing you were offering, and I was like, I'm in. And you were so gracious and kind to my showing up, going, don't know, I'm gonna learn some things here, thank you for not shooing me out of the room because I was just so, I don't know, and again, over my head. But it was so fantastic for me to get the opportunity to just immerse myself in the language and hearing all the things that you were talking about with your students, and seeing the loving care that you put in the time you spend with everyone. It just felt really nurturing. And so you've been a big part of how my business has kicked off. And so to get to come together and offer something to our combined audiences, I'm like, this is going to be pure magic. Like,
I know. I feel the same way too. And we both have, some Libra placements.
That's so cool. Like, I love that so much that when you told
Mhm.
me where our charts intersect, and I just went, oh, that's special. That's really good.
Yeah, yeah. And being a Libra and having Libra placements, we are all about other people. We love lifting other people up, and both have that same desire to really be there for anyone with whom we're working.
Yes.
So I'm excited about the potential for our for anyone taking the course, and anyone who's joining with us on this adventure.
Me too. And let's do a little quick
Sure.
overview of what this is. And for
Yeah.
anyone who's just like, no, just tell me where to put my credit card. Okay. If you go to astrologyforcreatives.net/yes, you will land on the buy page, and you'll see a ton of information there, and we'll get you inside. If you come now, like if you're watching this in June and you're joining us like that, you're early to the party because we are just building this. As we have these conversations in each of our meetings, we are putting it all together. So good for you being a fast action taker, but right now there's, beyond the welcome page, very little to do other than render your chart and be excited for all the cool things that we're going to do together in July and August. But Rachel, would you like to kind of take us through at least the first few lessons that we're going to experience?
Sure, absolutely. So, astrology for creatives, we are actually going to focus on the elements of the natal chart that relate to success and relate to the success of people who are entrepreneurs, people who want to see their visions brought into life. So, whether you're an artist, whether you're a tech startup entrepreneur, whatever creative medium you fit into, there's a place for you in this class. So the first class is going to be the sun and the moon and the rising, and we're going to talk about the three lights, like the two lights, and how other people see you. So how to maximize the potential of your sun and your moon. And then we'll talk about the benefics. We'll talk about Venus and Jupiter, and we'll talk about how to brand yourself with looking at those placements, looking at your strengths, looking at your personal style, so that you're not trying to conform to a mold that you think you're supposed to fit into, but that you're really marketing yourself based on your strengths that are represented in your astrology. And one example I have of this is I have a client actually who's got this Venus in Scorpio
I was
and a
just
Taurus
thinking.
rising.
Okay, this is crazy because it's not crazy. This happens all the time with us, y'all. You're gonna get this will happen constantly during the course because I was like, a really good example of how branding could work there is if we had somebody whose Venus is in Scorpio. Okay, so continue. Perfect.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny because she's a writer, and she was like, trying to figure out what kind of genre and I was like, why don't you do horror? Why don't you do, and she thought she was supposed to fit into this like mold of like nice, and I was like, no, Scorpio is the sign of death. It's the sign of, of graveyards and cemeteries. Go like right according to, and so she started marketing herself that way. But that's an example of how to use your Venus. And then we talk about the malefics. We talk about Saturn and Mars and how they relate to the limiting fears that you're here to overcome. And that might be standing as resistance to achieving the success that you want to achieve. And so we talk about how to work with those so that you're not pushing against them, but that you're moving to them in an intentional way and making the most of the potential that they represent in your chart.
For sure, because I often say the malefics are not bad guys in their own mind, the same way a villain is never a bad guy in his own mind in a story. In a screenplay, the bad guy, and I'm not gendering it by saying bad guy, but the bad guy is always certain that they are on a mission for good, for whatever that purpose is, but their mission for good could actually be labeled as that's a problem for the story. The malefics are the same way. So we just want to look at where can we use that structure that Saturn is so great at, and where can we use the motivation that Mars is so great at, and lean into some superpowers that are in there while also removing those upper limit problems or blocks that either of those planets can kick up for us.
Yeah, I love that. I think one example of how to work with the malefics, you talk about screenwriting, and in screenwriting, a great protagonist has their character flaws, but the character flaws drive the story, and they also show us the opportunities. So they show us how the character flaw can become the biggest strength, the biggest superpower. And so that's how I approach working with Saturn and working with Mars. And when you identify those things in your chart, then you can find out how to move beyond those limitations, and also how to how to work with resistance when it shows up and you're about to do something great.
Right, because it's not about eliminating it from our lives, because I don't think we can, but it's recognizing it, spotting it early enough to know, oh, right, that's one of those things, and having tools to deal with that.
Yes, exactly. So we'll talk about money. We'll talk about whether abundance flows to you, or whether what are some of your challenges with the flow of abundance, the flow of wealth, the flow of fame. The 10th house does relate to fame. We'll talk about life purpose with your nodes. So these are and so much more. And then
So much more.
our classes, we're going to get interactive because we
Oh
just
yeah.
love talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll talk with we'll show celebrity examples and look at charts of people who made it, or people who made it and or didn't make it,
Because there are certain places, especially in celebrity charts, where we can see there's that moment of the spin out. Like it's right there. And then we
Yeah.
can talk about, well, what patterns might you see in your own chart? And we'll walk you through what to look for, so that as you're looking at your chart, I'm looking down as I'm saying this, you're not overwhelmed by just these glyphs and these quadrants, and it's not just overwhelming you. Instead, we're going to say, zero in on this thing, and where you see it here, here's what that means. And then there's going to be plenty of time each week for Q&A. So you'll be able to ask questions during the Zoom. We'll also, of course, have all replays available, and a 24/7 community conversation area, not on Facebook. Sorry, Zuckerberg, but not sorry. Where we'll have all the conversations going throughout. And our inaugural class starts up the first week of July. So It's a really exciting time. And if you like being a part of something when it's at the very beginning stages, which if you have worked with me before, you know that that's sometimes the best time to get in because we're building it based around what we learn the needs are. And it's also the lowest price it will ever be. And you lock that in when you get in early. But my friends out there are like, yes, I know this. I'm ready. Let's do it. So I'm really excited to get to offer this with the, I think we've decided cutoff of, July, like the weekend of July 4th will be when enrollment stops,
Mm-hmm.
because we want to make the first week's course page go up on the 5th, and then we'll have our first Zoom on July 7th.
Yes. And then we'll meet Wednesdays for 6 weeks.
Yes. Wednesdays, 6 weeks, live meetings, 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. The meetings will go 90 minutes. And so we're looking at like 45 minutes of teaching and having the conversation between the two of us with, a limited Q&A until then the last half of the course will be, or each week's meeting will be hot seats, Q&A, very specific to you questions. And so you're going to have an opportunity to have your questions asked and answered. And if you're not able to join us live, you can submit them ahead of time and we'll field them as well.
Oh, I'm so excited. It's going
I'm
to be
so excited. Okay, so
so
that's
fun.
astrologyforcreatives.net/yes. If you know you're in, come on in and join us. Like I said, you're early right now, but if you're watching this closer to July 5th, get in because we're closing doors. Awesome. Yeah.
Yes. Well,
Any final words as we close this off, Rachel? I'm so glad we had this conversation, even though tech was trying to play with us.
I know, I know. I think that's like one of the things, like right now, it's if you keep moving forward on something that you know is right and that you're supposed to do, then it has that, that the positives of Saturn, which is like you're able to you're able to succeed, you're able to achieve what you want. And so I think hopefully we'll be doing that, cheerleading on anyone who takes this course and who works with us over the next few weeks.
Yeah, we're so excited to bring y'all into this energy and have this exciting summer with you. It's just something I'm personally so looking forward to and can't wait for the time that we'll share. And we look forward to welcoming you in.
Yes.
Awesome. Great. Thank you,
All
Rachel, for
right.
chatting with me
Thanks,
today.
Bonnie.
All right.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye.